Alright, hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. It's Rob at Smirking Gun Reviews, and we've come to the end of Season 4. We finally finished this part of the journey. I want to thank everybody that's been watching these with me and reviewing these with me. I have a lot of fun. This is like definitely one of the best experiences that I look forward to every year is Better Call Saul. And so it sucks we're going to have to wait a whole year for more brilliant from Bob Odenkirk and Vince Gilligan and Rhea Seehorn and Patrick Fabian and Jonathan Banks and Giancarlo Esposito and just everybody in this show that just keeps killing it. Michael McKean, you know, he comes back here. So full spoilers for Season 4, Episode 10. It's called Winner. So usually I start out, I'm just like, yeah, I'm right. It's Monday night. It's Better Call Saul night. But I'm a little sad because here we are. It's 10 weeks have already gone by, and now we got to wait another year or so. Who knows before we get to the next part. But this was just great. This was greatness, and we get to see the real Jimmy turning to Saul. We don't have the flashy suits yet. We don't have the office. We don't have the criminal lawyer part. He is going under the name of Saul Goodman. So, I mean, we are going to get some Saul in this. I'm glad that I'm wrong about it. You know, I've said that I didn't think we'd ever really see it. But with the way it was going, and I guess part of this was because I thought maybe he was going to be joining Hamlin McGill. And, you know, I think I was just wishful thinking, I guess. But no, that's not the way we're going to go. And we really only have 2 arcs in this. And kind of like the Walking Dead premiere, it really was a kind of simple story. And that's just the 2 transitions. Mike losing more of himself to Gus Fring, and Jimmy losing more of himself to become Saul. And another step has gone forward. So, like, let's just talk about Mike here and him tracking down Werner. It's a very simple story. And the Lalo stuff that is mixed in just adds a little bit to, you know, Giancarlo's story arc here mostly. But this whole thing with Werner is showing, like, Mike losing his last bits of, like, I gotta say, like, if he ever were to not work for Gus, like, he couldn't just walk away from Gus. But it's just where he was at the beginning of this is just kind of this broken, you know, like this ex-cop, you know, and he's a dirty cop. He lost his son. He's out there to try to help his daughter-in-law. And if he had just been able to do that, I think his life would have been okay. But he couldn't change who he was. And to get the things that he wanted for his daughter-in-law, he kept doing what he knew how to do. He couldn't wait, you know, he's older, and he has a skill set, and he just started compromising the last bits of goodness in him. He's doing good, you know, he's trying to do good by his family, but just like Walter, you know, saying, you know, he was doing it for his family, and we all know now, you know, he said he did it for himself. In this, though, Mike really is doing it for his family. He's not doing it for himself. He doesn't particularly enjoy doing terrible things to people. He just doesn't have anything, you know, he doesn't have the same moral compunction to stop himself from doing what he has to do, he feels he has to do. And so that's the part that's kind of, you know, missing, and his willingness to go to that dark side. And this, what has to happen to Werner here, is heartbreaking for Mike, because he just, you know, he tried everything, and he's seeing, you know, he takes it upon himself to do this, and he takes it responsibility for finding Werner, and he thinks I think deep down he knows that there's no real way that he's gonna be able to get Werner out of this situation. But he's got that little tiny bit of hope, like that maybe. But also I think he feels like as long as it's him that finds him first, if the worst happens, he'd rather do it himself than just some cold, you know, gangster who will just shoot him and scare him before he goes, instead of kind of trying to go out on his own terms. And Werner here, like, I didn't think it would be him. Like I've said before, I thought it would be Kai, and I think that's the great misdirection that this show can do to you. Is, they change that. They do a little magic on you. They con you a little bit, and which is in a good way. They get you looking at the one thing so that you never suspect the guy that you'd never suspect would be the Achilles heel here. And so, I mean, is it a little bizarre that Werner has gone through all this just to see his wife? Yeah, it is. To me, it is. But I've never been married, and I've never had to be away from somebody that I love like that, so I don't know. But I do know one thing, is that if I knew I was working for somebody like Gus Fring, I wouldn't let my wife and my feelings for my wife get in the way of knowing that when the job is done, I'll be able to see my wife all I want, and I'll have a shit ton of money in the meantime. That being said, you'd also have to believe that Gus was going to let you leave when the job was over. And so we'll never know, right? I mean, there are the guys there. So, we haven't seen what happens to them at the end of this. But with Gus, being pretty adamant about what had to happen to Werner, I wouldn't be surprised if the whole crew ends up getting taken out. But there'd also be a case of saying that if that were to be true, he'd be breaking that promise to Werner. And I think that would have been that'd be the end of Gus and Mike's relationship. So he'll probably let him go for the sake of that, just because we know where Mike ends up, and it seems like him and Fring, doesn't seem. Him and Fring are like this, man. So you have to believe that that's how it's going to go. It is incredible and fun to see more Gale Boetticher, even if it's just for about 2 minutes. But it's great to see him in the lab and just being Gale. That actor is so great. But in this, we get to see, Gus is usually very friendly when it comes to Gale. But in this case, because of what's going down, he's not giving Gale the usual, soft Gus. He's giving him the stone cold 1,000-yard stare Gus. So, and Gale knows when to get out of Dodge. He does briefly meet Mike, but again, two men who are in a way different state of mind than Gale is. So he gets nothing from Mike. So that's that shot of when Werner goes out to see the stars. First we had to look at the flowers. Now we have him going to go see the stars. That's nice. That's kind of I didn't even really think about that. AMC shows and people looking out before they get their heads blown off. So it was a nice moment, though. Werner not turning into a bubbling mess or something like most shows would have somebody do. Look at the sorry, that was a little Miller's Crossing there. He takes it like a man. He knows there's no way out. He knows he can't run. And the only way to save his wife, it is kind of like he does what he has to do, and it has to suck that the last words you have to say to your wife is basically get the fuck out, go. You have to yell at her. You have to, he won't remember it in a few minutes, but she'll remember it for the rest of her life, that the last words her husband said to her were terrible things, mean things, and then she never hears from him again, and then that's it. That's terrible. That's awful. And the thing is he's saving her life, but in a couple of minutes, he won't even remember. He'll be gone. And so it's very tragic, very sad. And the writers really handled this really well. Maybe if I don't quite agree with Werner's whole plan, writing-wise, I don't know if I agree with, him freaking out. But it is an interesting, like I said, diversion from Kai to Werner. So that shot, though, like I was saying, the night sky, seeing Mike and Werner out there, the whole background where it's just a little bit lit. You can see the stars, you can see the background, and then pow, beautiful shot. No pun intended. Beautiful, beautiful way that was shot. All right, so let's get to Jimmy's side of the story. Now, we get to see a very different side of Chuck, and that was really great. Really, really great that we actually got to see a soft side of Chuck. We got to see a fun side of Chuck. We got to see that Jimmy occasionally is able to bring that side of Chuck out. He's a pain in Chuck's ass, but he starts singing. He picks a song he knows his brother likes. He first kind of purposely is keeping the mic from his brother because that would make him want it more a little bit. Then they start to share it, and he knows, and he just gives the mic to Chuck and lets him sing. And Michael McKean's got a pretty good voice. So it's a nice moment that all the group, most of these people don't get to see this side of Chuck. They just know him as the guy that they all respect and look up to and are in awe of. And Jimmy was able to not just do something nice so that Chuck could show these people that he is not always such a hard ass, but that he can be, he can have a good time. He can lighten up. He can allow himself to have a good time. And that scene where he's putting Jimmy to bed and they're just having this normal brother moment where there is no animosity and there is no feelings of, disappointment. They're just two brothers here in this moment. Singing that song at the end, I love that too. The winner takes it all. And it's a really good, the writing here in this episode is just so goddamn brilliant. And it really got to me. It really did. I was sitting there with like a smile on my face for, that whole karaoke scene, and then just kind of sad, like a little melancholy watching them, sing a little bit, this sweet moment that is not going to last. And it's misdirection. And I love it. So they make us feel these things. They make us have this connection that Jimmy's having these feelings. Jimmy's finally feeling the loss of Chuck. And then we get this. I just love this. This is great. Because you dare think for a second, and that's kind of the theme throughout this whole thing, is you get to think for a second that throughout this episode, that Jimmy's feeling something. So you see him here at the grave, and you got these people coming by, and they're all listening to him talk and have a little sob, and then they go away. And you realize that this is part of him and Kim's plan to drum up sympathy, to show that he does, because that was the thing that she said is missing from his getting his being a lawyer back, is his talking about Chuck and showing remorse and being sincere. And so this isn't the first step of their plan. And then we get and he calls them suckers right off the bat. He calls them suckers. And that should have been kind of a warning for Kim. Was calling them suckers, because it's his attitude about these people now. And then we get the second part of the plan, where somebody has donated money to making Charles McGill part of this library for $23,000, and everybody at first thinks that Hamlin did it. And he's like, no, and everybody starts to, you see that the film crew's there, and they start to drop hints that it was Jimmy, and oh yeah, I saw him write the check, and and everybody starts to looking at Jim, and he's outside smoking, and of course he's too sad to be inside with everybody else and enjoy the little sliders and talk with all the big wig lawyers that are there. So it's step number 2. Get everybody around, get everybody talking. Jimmy's doing things about things, and it's got to do with his brother. I liked also the second part of this where Jimmy's trying, coming up with an even bigger scheme of how he can do things. Like, I'll save a judge from a burning building. And he realizes it's too big, too big. All right, yeah. So again, Kim's not quite getting it. She's leading him down the path of, they're doing some more, some ethically questionable things to get things done. But they're not saving judges from burning buildings. So she's keeping him kind of in check. But we know so far, like they're both pulling a con. So then when they get to talking about, well, when he gets there, he's got to be, sincere. You've got to read this thing. There's no winging it. Got to stick to this. They've got cards out. They got flashcards and everything else to learn all this and how to do it in what order. And keep it all together, and you've got, boom, you'll be a lawyer again. And I love it, that she says you can't wing it. There's no winging it in this. And so before we do this, we talk about this last scene though. The part where they're giving away the scholarships. My connection was bad for a second, so I hope I didn't miss too much of this scene. But he is trying to sell them on somebody who deserves a chance that's different than the other ones. Someone that's more like him. And I thought for a second this was part 3 of the plan. Was to show them, like, hey, we all make mistakes and blah, blah, blah. And he sells it really good. Yeah, these other guys have done this and everything, but, in my opinion, he should have said a little bit more like, this person has something to lose. This person has something to prove. This person, when they get this kind of opportunity, they'll be less, this is their one thing. So you'll have loyalty. And I think like to somebody like Hamlin, that would be important, but they didn't say that. And they don't give it to her. But Hamlin even says that that's a heck of a sales job. But that's the thing, is it's just not enough. These people, they don't forgive, they don't forget, they don't care about, the plucky person who wants to get it done. They just want to, you got to tell them what they want to hear. It's all a fucking game. And if you I love what he tells her, man, that screw these people. They are on the 45th floor. You'll be on the 50. Screw them. And it's not really him, her he's talking about. He's talking about himself and how he feels about things. He's just using her as a sounding board, to motivate her. But really he's talking about all those people that looked down on him and never gave him a chance. And it's all Chuck still to me. It's still about Chuck. He just can't do it. He can't say it. He keeps lying to himself. And telling her to cut corners and things like that. So I do think he was talking more for himself and less to her. So we get to that final scene where he's sitting in there and he's got this and he starts reading the letter, and it's great. And then he stops. And they let you think, oh God, he's going to wing it. And he is winging it. But then he starts talking and telling everybody all these things about Chuck and how, and him and I know him and he was a son of a bitch, but if you got his pride, if he was proud of you even for a second, it was like this, the sun shining down on you and blah, blah, blah. And he just tells this really earnest, sincere speech. And as he ended it, I went, it's all bullshit. Before he even got back to the table and sat down or sat in his chair, I went, that was the performance. He wasn't supposed to wing it. But she was like, oh, okay, he's winging it, but he's sincere, he's believable. He is really making us all believe him. But it's all just misdirection. We're all supposed to believe it. Even her is not supposed to know that he is bullshitting. I knew it. I figured it out right near the end where I was like, this is all bullshit. This is him still This is him losing more of himself. As soon as they get out there, and she thinks, oh, this is great, and they're having this sincere moment, and she thinks they're on the same page, and they so aren't. Because he flips it and calls them suckers. That whole time he was giving that speech, he was thinking about what he told that girl. But these suckers, they won't let you in. They won't let you be a part of their club, which is another part of his problem. Well, not his, like how he sees things. That he's never going to be one of them, so screw him. I'm going to fuck him up. I'm going to do all the things that they won't do. Just like he told her. And that's what he does to these people to get what he wants. He gets what he wants by giving him the best bullshit that he's ever given. It makes everyone in that room believe it. And he probably made a lot of people in the audience believe it too. But I've seen enough. I know where they pull the tricks and the strings sometimes, and so I just went, this is the real switcheroo on us. Because he does say, it's all good, man. The look on Kim's face when she realizes that how it was all a scam in that room. When he says that, I just couldn't do it and blah, blah, blah. And he had a better plan. Because he always does have another plan. He always has a backup. Even when they were doing like in the library thing, he comes up with the plan to save the judge from the fire. All right? There's a way she's trying to get it done, and then he always has something else going on. She's just been able to keep him from doing it. In this moment, she can't get up and say, Jimmy, stop. Because if she gets up and says, Jimmy, stop, it's all over. But she believed it. So he had to say the most believable shit ever. And make you think that he gives a shit about his brother. And I think somewhere way down inside he does. But Chuck killed that. Chuck killed that in season 3. And even though he may feel bad about his brother, he hates his brother just as much as his brother hates him in a way. Because he's just another person who didn't believe in him. So anyway, and that's it. That's the end of the season, and it's fantastic. That's a fantastic way to go out. It is a little surprising that they didn't have enough time for a little flash forward, but oh well. We still get a great hour of television. And again, I hope this show gets some Emmy nominations because it deserves it. I'm sorry, Game of Thrones, I love you, but this is just a better written, better acted show. Shows like this and The Handmaid's Tale and The Expanse and stuff like that, these are the shows that deserve like a lot of rewards. So anyway, that's it. That's the end of season 4. I really appreciate all of you coming and joining me on this journey of Saul's, Jimmy's life, and everybody else in the Breaking Bad universe, Gus and Mike and Gail and everybody. And so again, thank you so much for watching these with me. I hope you'll be back next year with me. Check out all the other stuff on my channel. We got tons of stuff. Look at the playlist. We do movie reviews, TV reviews, comic reviews. All sorts of stuff is on the channel. And so, yeah, that's about it. So, gosh, I don't even want to break away. Just like I want more to be there, but it's not. So, anyway, if you liked this video, please hit the like button, comment, share, subscribe, all that jazz. Otherwise, this is Rob at Smirking Gun Reviews saying, it's all good, man. We'll see you next year. Bye.